6th century Arabia, a land of endless deserts, scattered tribes, and ancient sanctuaries. At the heart of it stood a city unlike any other, Mecca, and within it, a sacred structure that tribes across the peninsula revered, the Kaaba. For generations, it had stood untouched, protected not by armies, but by tradition. But in one fateful year, everything changed. From the distant lands of Yemen, a powerful ruler began marching north. His army was unlike anything the Arabs had ever seen. Thousands of soldiers, war banners cutting through the desert winds. And at the front of the army, towering elephants. His mission was unthinkable. He intended to destroy the Kaaba. His name was Abraha. Across Arabia, fear spread. Tribes whispered in disbelief. Caravans stopped. Pilgrims prayed. Could the sacred sanctuary of Ibrahim really fall? But destiny had already begun to unfold. Because in that very same year, in that very same city, a child was about to be born. A child whose message would one day transform Arabia and the world. This was the year history would remember as the year of the elephant. Arabia in the 6th century was a land of extremes. Endless deserts and scattered oases shaped the lives of nomadic tribes, while towns like Mecca thrived as centers of trade and faith. Mecca's Kaaba had long been revered, believed to have been built by Ibrahim and his son Ismail. Yet over the centuries, its original purpose had changed. By the 6th century, the sanctuary was surrounded by idols, nearly 360 of them, representing tribes and beliefs from across Arabia. Pilgrims journeyed across the peninsula to worship there. Each season, they brought devotion, offerings, and trade. Markets flourished. Caravans arrived from distant lands. And Mecca became both a spiritual sanctuary and an economic crossroads. But beneath it all, the legacy of Allah, the one God, had not been entirely forgotten. A truth buried, yet never extinguished. Beyond Mecca, Arabia was a land of contrasts. Tribal loyalties ran deep, and conflicts could endure for generations. Wars fought for honor, vengeance, and survival. In some regions, harsh customs had taken root. Among them, the burying of infant daughters, a practice later condemned in the Qur'an in the strongest terms. And yet, the Arabs were also a people of remarkable expression. Poetry flowed through their gatherings. Words of pride, love, and rivalry preserved with striking eloquence. To the north of Arabia was the Byzantine Empire, the powerful eastern continuation of Rome, ruling the Levant and eastern Mediterranean. Its emperors commanded a disciplined military with fortified cities, paved roads, and strategic ports. Christianity shaped law and governance, while thriving markets and monumental architecture reflected wealth and control over trade. To the east lay the Sasanian Empire, centered in Mesopotamia and Iran. Strongly ruled by shahs, it fielded a formidable army of cavalry and infantry, backed by nobles. Zoroastrianism guided politics, while its advanced cities, irrigation, and trade networks fueled a prosperous economy. To the west, across the Red Sea, was the kingdom of Aksum, a wealthy Christian kingdom. Its kings oversaw a disciplined military and controlled Red Sea trade routes with fortified ports and stone cities, demonstrating both wealth and strategic strength. To the south lay Yemen, fertile and rich, controlling the southern trade routes. Advanced irrigation supported agriculture and dense settlements. Its tribes and occasionally Aksumite garrisons ensured military readiness. While the region displayed a mix of Christianity and highlands and traditional Arabian beliefs among local tribes. In this world of competing empires and fragile alliances, Mecca held a unique place. Protected not by armies, but by tradition, reverence, and the sanctity of the Kaaba. In Yemen, a powerful governor ruled on behalf of the Aksumite kingdom. His name was Abraha al-Ashram. Ambitious and determined, Abraha had built a magnificent cathedral in the city of Sana'a. Its towering structure and decorated halls were meant to rival the Kaaba itself. His goal was clear. He wanted the tribes of Arabia to abandon their pilgrimage to Mecca and instead travel to his cathedral. But the Arabs continued to journey to the Kaaba, just as their ancestors had done for generations. For Abraha, This was more than a religious challenge. Pilgrimage meant commerce. Commerce meant power. And the Kaaba stood at the center of it all. In Mecca, the guardian of this sacred sanctuary was Abd al-Muttalib ibn Hashim, leader of the Quraysh and custodian of the Kaaba. Respected among the tribes for his wisdom and dignity, he carried the responsibility of protecting the sanctuary of Ibrahim. When Abraha realized that Arabia would not abandon the Kaaba, he made a decision that would shock the peninsula. He gathered a massive army. Thousands of soldiers marched under his command. But what truly terrified the tribes of Arabia were something they had rarely seen before: war elephants. The largest of them was said to be called Mahmud. So vast was Mahmud's stature that even the elephants seemed to follow him in awe. With elephants leading the army and banners rising above the desert winds, Abraha began his march toward Mecca. His objective was simple: destroy the Kaaba and redirect the pilgrimage of Arabia forever. News of this approaching army spread rapidly across the desert. As Abraha's army advanced northward, not all of Arabia stood silent. Some tribes rose in resistance. Among them was Du Nafar, a noble of Yemen, who rallied his people to stand against the advancing force. They fought with courage, but were overwhelmed and taken captives. Further along the route, the tribe of Khat'am, led by Nufail ibn Habib al-Khat'ami, attempted to halt the army's advance. But they too were defeated, their resistance crushed beneath the might of Abraha's forces and his elephants. Yet not every tribe chose to fight. The people of Ta'if from the tribe of Thaqif chose a different path. Instead, they sent a man to guide Abraha's army toward Mecca, ensuring that their own sanctuary would be spared. As Abraha's army neared Mecca, fear gripped its people. The Quraysh were merchants, not imperial soldiers. They had no army capable of confronting elephants and thousands of trained warriors. Yet Abd al-Muttalib refused to abandon the sanctuary. During the march toward Mecca, Abraha's soldiers seized what lay in its path. Among it, it is reported, were 200 camels belonging to Abd al-Muttalib. These camels had been set aside for sacrifice near the Kaaba. According to early historians, the army camped at al-Mughammas, just outside Mecca, at the edge of the sacred sanctuary. Without weapons, without an army, the elderly leader of Quraysh walked directly into the camp of the invading force. Thousands of soldiers surrounded him. Massive elephants stood nearby. Yet he showed no fear. According to early Islamic historians, he spoke calmly to Abraha. "I have come for my camels that your men have taken." Abraha looked at him with surprise. He had expected pleas for mercy or negotiations to save the Kaaba. Instead, the guardian of Mecca had come only for his camels. Abraha reportedly said, "I was impressed when I saw you, but now you speak only about your camels and not about the house which I came to destroy." Abd al-Muttalib replied, "I am the owner of the camels. As for the house, it has a lord who will protect it." Abraha, struck by the calm confidence of this man, ordered that the camels be returned. As Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim returned from the camp of Abraha al-Ashram, the people of Quraysh gathered around him, searching for hope. But there was none. Abd al-Muttalib addressed his people. "Leave the city, take your families and seek refuge in the mountains. There is no strength to fight this army." He paused, then said, "As for the Kaaba, it has a Lord who will protect it." As the city slowly emptied, silence spread across Mecca. Footsteps faded into the mountains. Homes were left behind. Then, alone, Abdul Muttalib walked to the Kaaba. He placed his hands upon its door and called upon Allah to protect his sanctuary. It is reported that he prayed, "O Allah, a man protects his house, so protect your house. Let not their power overcome yours." Now came the moment Abraha had marched for. The army moved toward the valley of Mecca. Elephants roared. Drums echoed through the desert. Thousands of soldiers prepared to advance toward the Kaaba. The largest elephant, Mahmud, was directed towards the sacred sanctuary. But something strange happened. At the edge of the city, Mahmud suddenly stopped and refused to move. They struck it. They shouted, they pushed it forward, yet the massive animal would kneel and refuse to advance. But whenever they turned it away from Mecca, the elephant would stand and walk normally again. The other elephants, sensing his hesitation, faltered in unison. Whips cracked, shouts rang out, soldiers prodded and pulled, yet the colossal beasts, fierce and unyielding, would not approach the Kaaba. Confusion and fear rippled through the army. Then the sky began to darken. From the horizon, flocks of birds appeared. countless birds descending over the valley. The Qur'an would later describe them as ababil. Each bird carried small stones in its beak and claws. Then, suddenly, they began to strike. The stones rained down upon the army. Panic erupted. Elephants screamed. Soldiers scattered in terror. The mighty force that had marched confidently across Arabia now collapsed in chaos. Abraha's army was struck with devastating force. Many soldiers perished, while others were left weakened, their strength fading with each passing moment. Among them was Abraha. Struck and severely afflicted, he ordered a retreat. The mighty army that had marched with pride now fled in panic, scattered across the desert. As they journeyed back towards Yemen, Abraha's condition worsened. Historical accounts describe a steady decline, his body weakening, his strength collapsing, until he could barely endure the journey. By the time he reached Sana'a, he was no longer the powerful ruler who had set out to challenge the Kaaba. He had been reduced to complete helplessness. Not long after, he died, his campaign ending in total failure. The Kaaba stood untouched, and Mecca had been saved. As Abraha's army fled, the dust of fear slowly began to settle over Arabia. The people of Mecca began to emerge, their hearts still pounding from the terror that had passed. Families reunited. Streets and markets slowly came back to life. Though no army had stood guard, the sanctuary endured, its protection evident to all who witnessed it. Awe and gratitude settled over the city, for they had witnessed a power far greater than armies or elephants, the unseen hand that preserved the sacred house. Life gradually returned to Mecca. Pilgrims came with devotion and offerings. Merchants reopened their shops. Children laughed. Tribes settled once more. A sense of hope and renewal spread through the city, as if a new chapter had begun. In that same remarkable year, 570 CE, forever remembered as the Year of the Elephant, a child was born in Mecca in the Islamic lunar month of Rabi al-Awwal, on a Monday. Historical reports differ on the exact date of his birth, with some traditions placing it on the 12th and others on the 17th of Rabi al-Awwal. Regardless, the month of his birth is remembered across the Muslim world as a first spring, a symbol of renewal, a beginning that would transform history. The child was born in the house of Banu Hashim, the household of the noble leader who had recently stood before Abraha, Abd al-Muttalib. His mother was Amina bint Wahab. His father, Abdullah ibn Abd al-Muttalib, had passed away before the child's birth. At the time of his birth, some early historical accounts speak of signs far beyond Arabia. It is reported in some of these sources that in Persia, a fire that had burned for generations in a major temple was suddenly extinguished. Some accounts also describe disturbances in the palace of Kisra, where parts of its structure were said to have collapsed. Even Lake Sawa, long sustained, is reported in certain narrations to have dried up. When the newborn arrived, his grandfather, Abd al-Muttalib ibn Hashim, carried him to the Kaaba, the sanctuary that had just been miraculously protected. And there, in that sacred place, he chose a name rare among the Arabs. He named him Muhammad, the one who is praised. When people asked why he had chosen this name, he reportedly replied, "I wished that he would be praised in the heavens and on the earth." Few in Mecca could have imagined how true those words would become. The Year of the Elephant became one of the most famous years in Arabian history. It was the year when the might of an empire failed before the will of God. It was the year when the Kaaba was preserved without an army defending it. And it was the year when a child was born in Mecca. A child who would one day return to that very sanctuary and call humanity to the worship of one God. History would remember that year not only for the defeat of Abraha, but for the beginning of a life that would change the course of civilization. The life of Muhammad, peace be upon him.